Do you think you're actually doing financially well right now? And I'm not just talking about how much money you earn or how much money you've invested, because there's so much more to being financially successful than just those things. And so in today's video, I'll be sharing the 4 things I think contribute massively to financial success. And so the question today is, do you have these 4 things under your belt right now? So hopefully this video will be a little confidence booster that you are doing these things right now that can help you become financially successful, as it's easy to get bogged down seeing and hearing how well other people are doing financially. But before we get started, hi, my name is Josh. I'm an accountant, currently working as an auditor right now. I like talking about personal finance and investing. Sounds like something you are interested in. Would be greatly appreciated if you could hit that subscribe button. Now, the first thing that's going to impact your chance of financial success is, do you have your eyes set on the right prize? Now, what I mean by this is, what are your financial goals in life? Is it to build wealth so you can help your family and other people? Or is it so that you can buy all the material things you want, such as luxury cars, clothes, and go on lots of holidays? Now, as much as we want to say we want to build wealth to help our family and other people, I think we all have a desire for those materialistic objects, and it's very hard not to. Then if we factor in lifestyle inflation too, often as people get a pay rise, they'll spend that extra income on materialistic objects, and I can almost guarantee that everyone suffers from lifestyle inflation to some extent, because when you get a pay rise, you feel like you have more money to spend, and you end up spending it on those materialistic objects, and this can hurt your chance of financial success in the future. Now the question is, why do we have an obsession for those materialistic objects? And the answer is actually very simple, as it's because those materialistic objects make us feel a certain way. For example, let's say you buy a luxury piece of clothing, let's say a suit from Tom Ford, where you won't find a suit for less than $6,000. Well, one reason for spending $6,000 on a Tom Ford suit is that the suit makes you feel more confident and handsome when you're going out or going to work. Or on the other hand, it could be a status thing, as when people see someone wearing a Tom Ford suit, they know the suit is really expensive, so they associate the person wearing the suit as being really successful and wealthy. Now, if we are able to control or even stop our materialistic desires, this can help us hugely on our financial journey. Because although these big and expensive brands may make you look wealthy to other people, they don't actually reflect being wealthy and could actually hurt your chance of financial success later on. And at the end of the day, who really cares how other people view you? For example, if we were to look at Mark Zuckerberg, which is one of the richest men on the planet, he literally has a cupboard of the exact same grey t-shirts which he wears almost every day. And so if you were to see Mark Zuckerberg out in public and you didn't know who he was, you would not reflect by what he's wearing as being one of the richest men on the planet. And so if Mark Zuckerberg doesn't live a life to impress other people, you and I shouldn't have to either. For example, if you have little desire for materialistic objects or can control how much you spend on them, this is a very good habit to have, and it's a good sign that you're set up for financial success later on. Now, the second thing that can affect how financially well you do is where you put your income. Now, many of you might be thinking I'm talking about investing, but I'm actually talking about having an emergency fund of saving, as if you get caught with bills to save and you have no savings, you can fall into debt, which can really hinder your chance of financial success. Therefore, making an emergency fund of savings so important, and for some reason no one ever talks about it. So the question is, how much should I have in my emergency fund saving? Well, according to Vanguard, which is the largest mutual fund issuer in the world, they recommend having somewhere between 3 to 6 months of saving to cover all your expenses, such as food, rent, and mortgages. Now, why would you need 3 to 6 months of saving for your expenses? Well, say you lost your job and so you had no income coming in. Or maybe you're in hospital and had a large bill to pay, you would then need your savings to pay those expenses. So let's have a quick look at how many people actually have around 3 to 6 months of savings for expenses. Well, according to Bankrate, only 48% of Americans have enough savings to cover at least 3 months of expenses, and only 27% of Americans have enough savings to cover at least 6 months of expenses. Now, this means that most Americans, and it's probably very similar around the rest of the world as well, don't have enough in their savings to cover their basic expenses if something significant were to happen in their life. And well, as these expenses aren't just going to disappear, many people then have to use debt to pay these expenses off, which can really harm your chance of financial success in the future, as you're stuck paying off really high interest rates. So if you have an emergency fund of savings to cover at least 3 to 6 months of expenses, this is a really good sign that you're set up for financial success in the future. Now, the third thing that's going to hinder your chance of financial success is the amount of debt you have. Now, there are 2 types types of debt you can have. One type of debt is actually good for your finances in proportion, and the other debt is just bad for them. Now, the first type of debt which could be good for your financial success is taking on debt to buy income generating assets, such as buying a rental property that's going to bring you in income. Although even taking on debt to buy income generating assets, you have to be careful and apply some sort of risk analysis, as you can become over leveraged. Now, apart from mortgages for people's homes, there's another type of debt which many people have, which requires taking on debt to buy things you don't need and that do not produce you any income. Now, if you're not quite sure what sort of debt I'm talking about right now, well, for example, we have finance car loan. Now, it's very common to need some sort of loan to finance your car, as it's very hard to have all the cash up front to buy your car, as they are very expensive. However, if you're using a car loan to finance a more expensive car, this is going to mean you're going to be stuck in large fortnightly or monthly payments to pay off a larger loan with very large interest rates. And this all links back to what we talked about first regarding materialistic objects. Now, another type of debt which is actually very common and that can hurt your chance of financial success is credit card debt. For example, if we were to look at the US, over 50% of Americans have credit card debt between $1,000 and $10,000. And some individuals have even more than $10,000 in credit card debt. Then if we were to look at the UK too, around 27 million people are in some sort of credit card debt, which is almost half the population of the UK. So credit card debt is actually a lot more common than you think, and the interest rates usually associated with credit card debt are really high, such as in the US of May 2023. The average interest rate on credit card debt was 22.16%. And so if the debt you have is close to zero for bad types of debt, such as credit card debt or car loans, this is a very good sign that you're set up for financial success. Now, the fourth thing that is a good sign you're doing financially well is if your income is working for you. Now, why is this so important? Well, there's this thing called inflation, which is probably one of the most deadly things that can hurt you when you're trying to build wealth, as not many people take inflation into consideration. Now, basically, inflation is where the price of your goods and services increases, meaning the purchasing power of your dollar decreases. Now, if we were to look at the average yearly increase in inflation over the last 10 years, in the US it was 2.65% and in the UK it was 2.8%. Now, although this doesn't seem like very much, taking into consideration globally inflation was over 8% during 2022, it would be very unwise to assume inflation will always be around 2 to 3% yearly, and especially not for the near future at least. But here is why inflation is so deadly. Now, say during 2022 you got a 5% increase in your yearly salary. Now, a 5% increase, you'd be pretty happy with that, right? However, if we take inflation into consideration, which was around 8% globally in 2022, so a 5% increase in your annual salary minus an 8% increase in inflation gives you a negative 3% return on your income. So in reality, it's more like getting a 3% reduction in your salary, as you would have been able to buy more of your original salary if inflation was zero during the year. So now that 5% increase in your annual salary during 2022 doesn't sound too good, does it? Therefore, it's so important you start investing a portion of your income so that you can outcompete the rate of inflation. Now, there's a lot of different ways you can invest your money to see a return, such as some of the more riskier ways are investing in stocks or real estate, and some of the more safer options would be government bonds or a term deposit. But overall, your goal with investing should be to minimize the risk you have and maximize the return you have so that you can outcompete the rate of inflation. Therefore, if you're currently investing or saving money aside to invest, this is a good sign that you're setting up well for financial success. So hopefully these 4 points has helped you feel a bit more confident about your finances, as it's easy to get bogged down in doubt whether what you're doing financially is actually right. Now, if you'd like to know how you can save more money so you can invest more to set yourself up for a better chance of financial success, you might want to check out this video right here, which explains how you can save thousands of dollars a year on taxes with just these 3 simple things.